This one for WWE champions. Pay to win like every day, yeah.
I don't play mobile games.
Funny how they still think I'm a broke man.
Then I'm broke.
Even though I be pulling Hogan's. I spent like 40 grand on a couple thousand pictures of some sweaty men.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about Stellar Blade. Now, the entire discourse around Stellar Blade here on this channel in the last several months is very simple. Looks good, meaning gameplay elements sound good, right? The combat, the bosses, how you play it, all seems interesting. The problem is the head of this game development team, the guy is infamously known for doing over-the-top sexualized characters in his games. That's what he's known for. Like, that's his thing. That's his shtick. And because of that, people seek out his kind of games who like that kind of stuff. Now, listen, I've played Tomb Raider, I've played Bayonetta, I've played Nier Automata. I've played games with sexualized characters before. It's really not that big of a deal. But in this case, with this game being hyper-focused on the sexuality of the main character. Oh, she's based on a model, and look at all the jiggle physics we put into the game and all that absolutely ridiculous stuff. And also knowing my audience, all right? I know exactly how you guys are or tend to be. I mean, shit, I'll be playing a fighting game, and you guys are making sexual comments about the characters in the fighting game. I'll be playing an RPG like Baldur's Gate 3, and people can't keep their mouths shut. So I know what would happen if I played a game like Stellar Blade. Although the gameplay may be interesting, which, I'll be honest, it'll probably, to me, appeal just as much as the gameplay of Devil May Cry or Nier Automata, which is kind of like, meh, it's okay. I'm not in love with that kind of action-paced game like that. I never have been. I wasn't a fan of the Devil May Cry series until you guys convinced me to start playing them, and still, to this day, they're kind of, meh, they're all right. They're not great, in my opinion. Same thing with Bayonetta. Like, Bayonetta 1 I thought was all right or decent. Bayonetta 2 I actually did not like, and I skipped Bayonetta 3. I didn't even care about it. So this style of game, to me, it's not even that appealing when it comes to the gameplay element, right? But now the fact that combined with the gameplay, I'm going to have to deal with people being completely immature for the entire time that I'm playing this game. I just didn't want to deal with it. So I decided to skip it. And quite honestly, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think that it's affected me in any real negative way. Especially with everything going on with Fallout right now, it seems pretty fine. So why the hell am I bringing this up right now? Because there's a huge controversy right now around the game. Are you ready? So just a few days ago, there was a big press release. Stellar Blade will be launching worldwide uncensored. No matter what region you're in, no matter where you're living, Stellar Blade will be uncensored and the same in every region. Now, this actually is very rare when this happens, because typically games that have worldwide releases end up having to have censorship and things in certain countries. Typically, usually it's China or other particular countries that are sensitive about certain kinds of content will demand censorship in certain parts of games, and then the game devs has to scurry to do that so that the game can be released in that territory. So usually a worldwide release is not identical, okay? Notably, a game like this that is high gore and high over-sexualization of the character, you would think there'd be countries that are more conservative known countries that were going to complain. Well, no. They stuck to their guns and said, that's it. Worldwide release will all be exactly the same. Okay? So the game came out yesterday. And guess what happened? So everyone has the game, right? Now, if you have a disc, you put it in your PlayStation 5. Keep in mind, this is Sony exclusive. The Sony exclusive game. All right, that's a partnership deal that the game dev, what are they? Something Up. I can't remember the name of the studio. Something Up, they're called. But yeah, like they did this exclusivity deal with Sony, right? So that they would basically only be on a Sony console. That's it. Shift Up. Thank you. It's called Shift Up is the name of the company that designed it. So everyone, gets the game. First of all, if you have a disc, you put it in. Oh, day one patch. You have to have the day one patch. If you just download it digitally, well, it already comes with the day one patch, right? People start to play it, and immediately they're noticing something. They're like, it seems like there's way less gore than what we saw in all the trailers and early gameplay that we were shown. And then they started looking at certain outfits in the game. Now, keep in mind, the outfits are ridiculously sexualized. But they're noticing, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. This looks slightly different. And some people actually did a test. So they took the game disc and put it in a PS5 and didn't do the update. They just played the game off the disc, which somehow works, which is weird because most games don't, but this one does. And they noticed something. This is day one patch, censors the game. It takes gore out and it adds more clothes to the protagonist. Wait a minute. They literally said just a couple days prior, worldwide release, no censorship, every version is the same. What the hell is this? So immediately people start going up in arms saying, wait, what? You promised us one thing and you literally lied and switched it. We didn't know that that was going to be in the day one patch, right? You didn't say it even was. So why would you do that and force that on us, right? So then apparently yesterday, as the internet started to explode in a tizzy about this, they actually interviewed the head game dev. And forgive me for not knowing this guy's name. It's my fault. I should have looked it up and I forgot to. And in an interview, he outright answered everyone, this was our choice. We were not forced into doing this. This is something that we decided to do for ourselves with the game. So don't be angry about anyone but us because this is our decision to change this game last minute. Despite the fact that just a few days prior, they had outright said no censorship. It's the same worldwide. Okay, so what is that about? So now there's two things happening. Number one, people are beginning all these crazy conspiracies about what's really happening with this game. Okay, and the crazy conspiracy is Sony forced them to do it. That they didn't want to do it. That wasn't their intention. That's why just a few days before the game's release, they had outright said that they weren't doing it. And then Sony forced them to do it. Okay? Now, let's say that's the case, right? Why would Sony have forced them to do it last minute, but not said anything about it, right? Well, I mean, I think the answer is very clear here. The entire marketing campaign of Stellar Blade has been focused around the uncensored nature of this game, its gore and sexuality. That's what the game is selling on. Do you know anyone who's really been discussing, oh, the intricacies of the gameplay and the combat system or whatever? No, here's what I'm seeing on social media. Oh, look, the main character's going up a ladder and we zoomed in on her ass, right? And, oh, look at this scene. Oh, look, the nearly skin color outfit that makes her look like she's nude. That's all you're seeing on the internet about this game. You're literally not seeing anything about the substance of the game. You're only seeing stuff about the over-sexualization of it. And I've talked about this over the last couple of months. I'm going to restate what I've said up to this point. The only reason that this game has received hype, that anyone hyped it up and said that, oh, it's a must-have game, it's a must-play game, is because they made that design choice. If the main character of Stellar Blade was a roided dude, no one would be talking about this game whatsoever. The only reason this game got the hype it did is because they decided to have an over-sexualized female protagonist, right? Most people who were so hype about the game were buying it for that reason. And so they know this. So Sony, well knowing that they want to censor the game, they're not going to announce it early. Why would they? If they said, oh, by the way, we're censoring the game, everyone would cancel their pre-orders. Everyone would go be up in arms and causing a big controversy around the game. So instead, they allowed an actual misinformation campaign to go on the internet about this game. They 100% purposefully designed and allowed it to happen. So that way, everyone would still be hyped for the game and have their orders in. And then they 100% last minute did the bait and switch and did this patch without even telling anyone, hoping that most people wouldn't notice. But we all know about how absolutely positively hyper-focused on minutia the internet gaming community is. And I knew they would find it if it existed, so they found it right away, and now the controversy begins. So the question is, how on earth does Shift Up get away with like 2 days before the game's release saying uncensored worldwide release, and then censoring it on release, and then saying, oh, we intended for that? Right? So that's one half of the controversy, is that people are saying this is totally on Sony. Sony must have forced this on Shift Up because Shift Up would have never wanted this for their game. But because they have this Sony exclusive partnership for this distribution on PS5, it must be that they forced it on them. All right, so evil Sony, evil corpos is one half of the controversy. The other half is people are like, well, that's it. We were lied to. If that's the case, I'm returning my game. I'm canceling my pre-order. I'm making sure that no one plays this game. We're boycotting Stellar Blade. I'm not kidding you. Yes, there's a group of thousands of people on this internet right now, okay, that are that are boycotting Stellar Blade because it has a censorship patch from Sony. And there's a big movement on the end. I'm canceling my PlayStation Plus subscription. Hit them where it hurts, right in the pocketbooks. Make sure they know we're not going to stand for this censorship, okay? And that's actually what's happening right now. Now, I have a question for everyone out there. Allow me to dust myself off to prepare for this one, because now it's time to drop the bomb, all right? Excuse me. Are you ready for this? If people were actually interested in Stellar Blade because it was a good game with good gameplay mechanics, why would they be boycotting it now because of a minor censorship patch? The gameplay is exactly the same. The story is exactly the same. All the elements of playing it are exactly the fucking same. So why would you boycott it unless you were buying it for the sexual content? I rest my fucking case. I was right all along. These tons of fucking people were buying it for that content. They're upset now that the content is censored, and now they're going to boycott it? So what were you buying the game for to begin with? Again, I'm not crapping on the game's gameplay elements at all. From what I saw in trailers, it looked good. It reminded me of Bayonetta. It reminded me of, whatchamacallit? And some, you ever saw that game Vanquish? Reminded me of that. Reminded me of a Devil May Cry. You know, with some variations, because people are saying it's actually a little bit harder than that or whatever, right? Cool. Sounds good to me. Oh, by the way, all anyone's talking about the game is sex content, right? The girl. What the fuck? Well, guess what happens, right? Reality slaps everyone in the fucking face. Reality is, most people were buying this game for the protagonist, and now that the protagonist is censored, they're all pissy about it, all right? I rest my case. There would be zero boycott on this game if people only cared about the actual gameplay elements. They don't. This game could have been a game where you just fucking mash a button and enemies explode into gory balls of whatever, brains shooting out of them. I'll use this. They still would have bought it. They bought it for the sexual content. That's what they bought it for. Or else they would have been not pissy about this. They would have, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, it's a big deal now, right? Now, do I agree with this practice of what happened? Absolutely not. I am completely 100% on everyone's side. You were promised a product. You were advertised a product. You were sold a product. And if that's the product you wanted, and you paid for it willingly because that's what you were told you were getting, and you got something else, and you were lied to about it just a few days beforehand, you absolutely have the right to complain and be upset about it. There's nothing wrong with that. I am on everyone's side here. It's bullshit that they advertised the game one way, said that's what it was, said it was uncensored, and then censored it. That is complete nonsense. That should never happen in any industry, right? And any industry, that's like saying, oh, we have a new car and it has a brand new feature, new brakes, right? Brand new revolutionary brakes. Everyone pre-order the car. So everyone pre-orders the car gets delivered, it doesn't have the brakes. What the fuck? What we bought the car for. It's what you advertised it on, right? How can you then do a bait and switch? You can't. There'd be lawsuits out the ass, right? Well, guess what? This is a case where there is concrete 100% evidence of misadvertisement. That is false advertising saying uncensored worldwide just a few days before and then censoring the game. So if anyone ever wanted to make a statement in the games industry, now would be the time to do a class action lawsuit against them and say, this is false advertising and you need to pay for it. Now, I don't know if it would go against Shift Up. I don't know if it would go against Sony. I don't know if it would go against both. But they absolutely have a case for this. In this case, this is concrete evidence that it happened, and that is 100% misrepresentation of the product. And they, at the very least, should offer people refunds. All right. Now, I think it's the stupidest idea ever for a refund. I want a refund because there's, it's not sexualized enough for me. Well, listen, I think that's dumb, but at the same time, you made your judgment based on what you wanted. If you didn't get what you wanted, but you were promised it, you have the right to get your money back. And I think people should get their money back if they want it. This is ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. And you know what's funny, too? It's very funny how the narrative changes. Because up until Friday, everyone on the internet, Stellar Blade, we can't wait for Stellar Blade. It's going to be the best game ever. Stellar Blade, the devs are amazing, guys. Can't wait for this game. Stellar Blade, Stellar Blade, Stellar Blade. And now, literally every piece of discourse I see on the internet, fuck Stellar Blade, fuck Sony, fuck this, fuck the censorship, fuck this. It just completely flipped on its head. Do you want to know the one thing that absolutely no one has mentioned about the game? The fucking gameplay. No one is talking about if it's good. No one is talking about anything in regards to the gameplay experience. There's people out there who wanted to wait for the game to come out to see if it was good. And now it's out, and they can't even judge for themselves because no one wants to talk about it. Everyone just wants to talk about the censorship of the sexual content and the gore, because it is also censorship of the gore. Apparently, there was like a ton of gore in the game originally, and they removed it. And people are really upset about this. So, I think it's absolutely hilariously silly. All right? And I'm curious how overall this game will be received. Did a lot of people actually not buy it? Or, see, the thing is, people didn't know about the censorship patch until the game was out. It wasn't like, you knew the day before. So people pre-ordered it, probably are stuck with it. They can't even refund it. They're just stuck with this game. You can't even get refunds on PS5, right? So it seems to me like the sales likely will be good, but it was based on a misconception, based on false information, an actual literal false advertising campaign. So I'm really interested to see how it will do. Will it actually sell well and be considered a smash hit? Will it just do okay? Will it actually tank? Like, how is it going to do? But again, I just find it hilarious, the discourse and how discourse changes based on a piece of minutia. Again, if the game is sound and good, then that should be what everyone is focusing on. Not, because there was some censorship of this minor piece, which should, okay, let me put it this way. What should have been a minor piece of the game. That sexualization of the character should not have been everyone's main focus. Sad that it did become that in social circles, but that's lame. That this game perhaps would have shined if it wasn't the focus, and then they never would have had this controversy, right? And I think, honestly, I do think that is a very dangerous risk that game devs are taking in the modern era. We have to understand something, okay? We live in 2024, and we live in a world where a lot of people who are in, essentially, a lot of people who are in power in these companies, in the media in general, are of a certain mindset, right? And it may not even be the mindset that is 100% dominant, but they're the ones in charge, right? So if you're a game dev and you decided to make a game that has this kind of content in it, you got to be careful, right? You got to be careful because your game may be a victim of this kind of social media issue. This game could be absolutely outstanding when it comes to the gameplay elements, but it may go down in history as the game that lied and gave false advertising and then censored at the last minute. And that might be the only thing people ever talk about when they mention Stellar Blade. This game may have completely forgotten gameplay elements that no one ever talks about because of this controversy now. So I think game devs moving forward are going to have to be way more careful about what they're putting in games and what they're focusing on in games, because you don't want your game to just be a one-topic controversy. You want your game to have legs. You want it to be, regarded as a good game by many, many people for various reasons, right? Some people like a game for its gameplay. Some people like a game for its story. Some people like a game for its art design or its music. And when all those elements come together to be one perfect thing, then those games become legendary. This game literally may be forgotten as a footnote in history because it became this big heated controversy. And that's not a good thing. What I'm afraid of now, what if game devs in the future now become afraid to do things differently in their games? Everyone must adhere to this list of 20 rules so that this will keep us out of controversy, right? It's like a checklist. We must do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And then every game's going to become the same. And then every game's going to feel like a dialed in or a paint by numbers effort. You know what every game will be? Starfield. Can you imagine if every game just becomes Starfield? Would you ever want to play a video game ever again? I think I'd rather just sleep. I'll just sleep. I'd rather be in my bed sleeping than playing Starfield, right? Now imagine if every game becomes that, you know? So, I don't even know what else to say. Like, do you really want that? I certainly don't. So, I don't know. This is, in my opinion, this is a bad situation for everyone. It's a bad situation for the people who were perving out over the character and wanted it to be over-sexualized. It's a bad situation for people who actually like the gameplay. It's a bad situation for people in general that just like unique games. It's certainly a bad situation for Shift Up. It's a bad situation for Sony. I mean, no one wins here. This is just bad for everyone. How did this happen? How did we even get here, right? Yeah, I'm shocked, but I just hope it doesn't affect the whole industry. I don't want to see the industry change negatively because of something like that, you know? Anyway, I'll continue to follow the story. I think next is going to be, does Sony say anything about it? Or how does the game actually sell? Because what might happen is, you get your initial sales wave of people who pre-order the game and are playing it at launch. But now, typically what happens is via word of mouth, you hear more and more people who like the game, and then more people will buy it, right? Like a game like Baldur's Gate 3 sold well at launch, but then sold tremendously over the next 7 months to become a dynamo and then a game of the year, right? A game like Stellar Blade maybe have initial good sales, but then you want to keep those sales rolling. If now the controversy is, oh, it's censored, if no one buys it after launch, it could actually end up being a flop. So I guess we're going to have to see. I will follow this story. I will let you guys know what I hear and go from there. But yeah, I'm just concerned. I don't want the game industry to now be pussyfooting around saying the only way that we can ever have our games not be controversial is to have this 20 checklist thing, and then every game is Starfield. Because then I just don't want to play video games anymore. And listen, Stellar Blade's not for me. That doesn't mean I don't understand that it's for some people, or that I don't want games to be different or to take chances or to do new things or different things. I do want that. Just because this particular one isn't for me doesn't mean that that's not what I want for gaming in the industry as a whole. And this could be a huge setback. So I hope that it doesn't become that. Okay? And that is gaming news. Wrong. So this person's completely wrong, but fine. Phil, the sexualization of the main character in Stellar Blade has nothing to do with the controversy or the boycott. It's about a giant corporation forcing a game dev to alter their product in a way that they never intended in order to remain on the platform. This doesn't prove you're right about anything. Wrong. Wrong. Because here's the thing. Day one patches happen on every single fucking game. Every single fucking game has a day one patch. The thing is, typically day one patches are done for things like bug fixes or little last minute tweaks. Visual changes like this happen all the time in video games. All the time. Why is this the only time that it's a thing of contention that caused this boycott or controversy? Why? Because people cared about the sexual content of the game. That's why. Literally. That's why. If it was just a little tweak here or a little tweak there and it didn't affect the thing that everyone was wanting, they wouldn't care. But because it affected the sexual content, boom, it's a big deal. You're absolutely, positively wrong. But thank you for the $1 tip.